A hush had settled over Winterfell that autumn, the quiet born not of dread but of a fervent, scarcely dared to believe hope. The castle's gray granite, worn smooth by wind and age, drank in the last warmth of the lowering sun as ravens circled the pale sky. On the battlements, banners snapped lazily, dire wolf gray on white, though here and there new thread glimmered where old rents had been mended after the long, grim rebellion that had nearly broken the north. Lyanna Stark, freshly returned to the keep she had left a girl, now paced beyond the mermaid pool in the godswood, her breath coiling in the chilled air. She moved with the restless energy of a racing mare newly unpenned, her riding leathers creaking softly with every stride. Snow was days away. She tasted it in the thin, sharp wind funneling through red-leafed branches overhead. Yet for the first time since her flight from Harrenhal, a flight that had ended in secrets, storms, and blood, she felt the cold as a companion rather than a tormentor. Winter might be coming, but it found her unbowed. At the heart tree's roots, her older brother Eddard waited. He rose when she approached, cloak swinging about his long frame. The streaks of gray in his dark hair were new, so too the furrow etched between his brows. It deepened when he studied her. The high cheeks and wild gray eyes that had once made half the north proclaim her a spirit daughter of the old kings were thinner now, pinched by fever long endured in the Tower of Joy and the rough march home. Still, a new power glinted there, a woman's resolve, forged in exile and tempered upon her return. Ned spoke first, his voice pitched low, as if the white faces of the heart tree might themselves be listening. They're waiting in the great hall, lords from every corner of the north. House Manderley came through the snow with 36 wagons of grain. House Reed sent green men to stand sentinel at our gates. Even the Glover men rode down from Deepwood Motte, though they've hardly a horse to spare. They come to see you, Lyanna, and some to size me up, she answered, resting a gloved palm against the weeping red bark. Crimson sap glistened on her fingers like blood newly spilt. To decide whether a woman may wear a crown of ice and rule the wolves. You are no mere woman to them. You are ice-made flesh, the she-wolf reborn, and they would ride 1,000 leagues to watch you take your place. Would you? The question left her lips before she'd thought better. It carried a jagged edge, resentment at years stolen, accusations never voiced, the uneasy truth they both guarded between them. Ned's gray eyes softened. Always. Silence settled, heavy with the things they dared not speak aloud. Of the child she had birthed and buried in Dorne's red sands, of the prince who had stolen her hand and perhaps her heart, of a rebellion that had toppled a dynasty and left the realm gasping. She had fled south a maiden and returned north a widow, though no septon had ever called her wife, nor any court acknowledged her husband. The crown upon her head now would be wrought of necessity, not love, of duty, not songs. You should go in first, she said at last. Let them see their lord before their queen, lest they fear oaths will be broken in the turning of a page. And leave you to face them alone? Ned's mouth twitched, the barest suggestion of a smile. You would do so gladly, but I will not have it said that Winterfell thrust you forward as a stag is loosed before hungry wolves. We enter together. Lyanna nodded. Together. It was a start. The great hall brimmed with the North's highborn and humble alike. Hearth fires roared against outer walls thick with creeping frost. Smoke spiraled upward to the dark rafters, and torches shed amber halos that made steel helms glimmer like fallen stars. Squires hurried between trestles bearing mulled wine scented with cloves. The fragrance mingled with the gamey sweetness of smoked venison and the earthy bite of raw turnip. Behind each long table, men and women sat shoulders braced, eyes fixed upon the dais where the tall black chair of the Kings of Winter had waited empty these many months. When Ned strode through the doors, the talking died as abruptly as a candle snuffed by wind. He climbed the steps, the dire wolf clasp at his throat catching the firelight. A murmur swept the hall. Respect, relief, the comfort of something known in a year of thunderous change. Yet even that murmur faded when Lyanna entered at his side. She wore no crown, no jeweled circlet, only a simple half-cloak of direwolf fur pinned over a dark blue gown. Her left hand rested upon the hilt of a slender sword wrought in Valyrian steel, the blade gifted by Lord Ricard before her first ride to Harrenhal. Its name had been Brightfang, though songs never troubled to mention it. Beneath the hall's roaring torches, its rippled surface drank the light greedily, as though feasting upon the gathered gaze. A hush of awe swept forward like an unseen tide. Some among them had fought at the Trident, had seen her wrapped in crimson silk upon a bier borne north by silent swords. Others had heard tales carried on winter winds, that she lay entombed beside ancestors lost to snowdrifts of bygone ages. Now here she was, flesh and bone, taller than they remembered, bearing scars they could not see. Ned raised a gloved hand. "Northmen," he began, voice steady, ringing against stone. "You have buried fathers and brothers, mothers and daughters. You fought, froze, bled for vengeance and for the right to stand free beneath the northern sky. I call you here not to bend your backs anew, but to lift them. The war is won, yet peace must be kept, and winter yet to come must be faced with a single heart." He paused. Lyanna listened as though hearing her own life retold in each measured sentence. "My sister has returned to us. Though rumors claimed her dead, the old gods kept her path even in far lands. She stands here now to claim what is hers by right of blood and by the will of the North. House Stark, ancient and unbroken, has ever guarded these lands. In that trust one was foster brother, then lord in place of my father. But a lord I shall remain no longer, for here is the rightful heir." He turned to her then, kneeling on the dais. The motion sent a gasp rippling through the assembly. "Lyanna, daughter of Ricard, blood of the first men, will you rule this north?" She had thought the question would come with weight. Instead it felt like a feather atop a mountain of stone. Ned's bent knee gave her strength. She laid one hand atop his head, fingers sifting through the strands of gray like winter's first snow upon dark earth. "I will rule," she said, her voice deep with promise. "I will guard the north and shield her children. I will keep the faith of our house, and honor the old gods and the new alike, for all tongues of men find blessing in hearth and home." She drew Brightfang and lifted it skyward, the hall's fires dancing along the blade. "In memory of the blood already spilt, I swear to spill no more save in defense of the North. And should my hand falter, may the steel turn on me, rather than on any innocent who calls these lands his own." From the far end of the room, a rough, booming voice called out, raw with emotion. "Queen of Winter," another answered. "Queen of the North." Then the hall erupted. Tankards hammered against oak, boots thundered upon flagstones. Voices rose together, fused into a single roar echoed by stone vaults high overhead. Lyanna felt the tremor beneath her boots, something ancient stirring, as if the old gods themselves shifted in their barrow seats. The cold in her lungs became a fierce, feral joy. When the din at last ebbed, Wyman Manderley heaved himself forward, emerald cloak sweeping the rushes behind him. His jowls quivered as he knelt. "Winterfell knows no truer queen. White Harbor bends the knee. Roderick Castle, hair as steel-gray as his mail, followed. House Castle follows where the wolf blood leads." One by one they knelt, the gnarly Umbers whose boisterous oath shook dust from rafters, the taciturn Karstarks, grim as midnight wolves, the craggy Glovers, the lean, sharp-eyed Ryswells. Maester Luwin recorded each name in a trembling hand, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Last of all came Howland Reed. Small and slight, Reed lean and moss-quiet, he passed between towering lords like a shadow cast by taller trees. At the foot of the dais he looked up, green eyes gleaming beneath dark lashes. "My queen," he murmured, and to Lyanna's ears it was no mere fealty but recognition, of towers fallen and vows kept, of secrets bound in blood. She inclined her head, and Reed's thin lips curved in the faintest smile before he pressed forehead to the stones. That night Winterfell feasted as it had not since King Torrhen bent the knee. Tables groaned beneath butternut pasties, hare and onion pies, carved aurochs, and a towering swan stuffed with dried plums. Minstrels plucked lutes strung with silver gut, singing of Lyanna's race around the winter town and the way her laughter had outrun the hooves of her gray mare. Wolves carved of spruce prowled the tables, their wooden eyes set with chips of smoky quartz. Children from the kitchens darted between benches handing out candied nuts, and fires roared so fiercely that sweat beaded on brows even as frost laced the windows. Yet Lyanna tasted little of it. She made the rounds, exchanging warm words with lords, clasping calloused hands, accepting toasts in black beer and blackberry mead. But the clamor faded in her mind to a distant hum as her gaze drifted to the vacant chair near hers, where her father should have sat, his laughter booming above them all, where Benjen, still away with the rangers beyond the wall, belonged, where Brandon, once heir to Winterfell, would never again raise a cup. She found solace in small things. A shy hug from Ned's little daughter Sansa, whose hair shone like early dawn upon snow. The rumbling snore of gray wind beneath the high table, muzzle resting on her boot. The sight of old Nan nodding by the hearth, half-remembered tales still upon her lips. As the hour deepened towards midnight, a hush fell when a single figure mounted the dais. Jon Arryn, aging lord of the Eyrie, veteran of 2 rebellions and half a dozen sieges, bowed before Lyanna. His pale eyes flicked across the hall, assessing, judging, before fixing upon her. "Your Grace," he said, and though his voice carried softly, it stilled the room like frost creeping across a pond. "The realm lies fragile as a new-forged blade. Robert Baratheon takes the Iron Throne in King's Landing, but his hand is not yet steady upon the hilt. The Reach mutters of roses plucked, the Westerlands weigh gold against fealty, and Dorne mourns a prince undone. The North's strength, your strength, will mean much in the moons to come." Lyanna inclined her head. "The North shall guard its own peace, and stand ready should the realm call upon us in honor, not coercion." Arryn smiled thinly, spoken like a Stark, yet honor is a coin too often clipped in southern mints. "Beware any who would barter their promises for your loyalty." He paused, eyes sharpening. "And beware shadows cast by dragons long thought dead. They linger in unexpected places." The cryptic warning struck something deep inside her, stirring echoes of stone towers and whispered prophecies. She opened her mouth to inquire, but Arryn had bowed once more and departed the dais, his gray cloak trailing like a vanishing dream. The following dawn found Lyanna once more beneath the red leaves of the godswood. Mist curled low over the pool, veiling her reflection in drifting swathes. She listened to the wood's slow heartbeat. Ravens croaking, distant hounds baying at unseen prey, the rasp of steel as guards changed watch. She sensed him before she saw him. Howland Reed stepped from behind a moss-slick elm, wearing a cloak of gray-green that blended with the damp earth. In his palm lay a folded scrap of parchment. "My queen," he said, offering the slip. "I am bound south before the snows grow deep. Word has reached me of strangers in the neck bearing no banners yet armed as knights. They ride to Moat Cailin, perhaps beyond. I will meet them on the causeway and learn their purpose." Lyanna took the parchment, noting the wax seal unbroken. A small, stylized lily whose petals bled red. "You speak of spies, of whispered songs returned to haunt the living. Some in the south have long memories and longer grudges. If they reach Winterfell unchallenged, the price could be heavy." His gaze darted to the trees, then back. "Read when alone, and trust none too quickly." She nodded. "May the Crannigs guide your steps." With a bow as brief as falling snow, Reed vanished. Lyanna waited until his footfalls faded before turning to the heart tree. The parchment weighed in her hand like iron, its seal throbbing with unspoken menace. She thought of Arryn's dragon shadows and of old wounds yet raw beneath their healing scabs. Then, slipping the message into her sleeve, she knelt, pressing her brow to the rough bark. "Old gods of leaf and stone, of ice and silent vigil, watch over your daughter." She felt no answering whisper, only the wind sighing through branches, scattering crimson leaves like dying embers across the pool. Yet when she rose, resolve steadied her breath. Winter might be unforgiving, but so too was a she-wolf guarding her den. Let the south spin its webs of courtly intrigue. The north would rise like a blizzard, unstoppable in its fury should harm threaten those within her walls. 3 days later, the first council convened. Lyanna chose the library tower for its high, narrow windows that admitted pale light without granting view to prying eyes. Ned stood to her right, Maester Luwin nearby, ink-stained fingers poised above parchment. Lord Manderley filled the room with the smell of honeycakes. Lady Meage Mormont smelled of salt and bearskin. Great John Umber's booming laughter cracked against dusty tomes whenever he spoke. They debated roads and harvests, taxes and tithes. Lyanna listened more than she spoke, weighing each word like gold upon scales. When 2 minor lords sparred over rights to a patch of disputed woodland, she cut through their quarrel with a single, calm judgment, citing an ancestor's edict from a century past. Surprise flickered in their eyes. They had not expected a young queen versed in law as well as swordplay. At dusk, when the council finally rose, Luwin approached with a small ledger. "A matter remains, Your Grace, diplomacy. King Robert sends a royal envoy to treat with Winterfell in a fortnight. He wishes to
reconcile," Ned supplied.
His tone held caution. "Robert loves you as memory, sister, but kingship corrodes. He will want assurances that the North submits, that no claim is made against his throne in the child's name." Lyanna stiffened. The child, Jon, a secret better kept than precious gem, hidden in plain sight beneath Ned's roof. She knew the lie he had woven, the boy as the bastard of some nameless maid from the south. For now that shield would hold, but Robert's wine-soaked curiosity could pry loose any armor given time. "We will welcome Robert's envoy," she said at last. "We will speak of trade, of ships for White Harbor, of the wall's upkeep. And we will show the realm that the North stands strong, yet not rebellious." "But," Ned asked softly, "but if Robert demands more than friendship, if he seeks to name warden over a free queen, he will find winter's doors closed." Her eyes met his, flint on flint. Even childhood friendships freeze in the dark. Night stretched its velvet mantle beyond the library windows as she lingered alone amid the scrolls. At last she unsealed Reed's message. A single line of ciphered runes greeted her. The dragon's lilies bloom beneath the snow. Underneath lay a sketch, 3 flowers, each petal jagged like shards of ice, their stems twined around a crown of 7-pointed stars. Lyanna's pulse quickened. Dragon, lilies, crown of stars. She traced the inked petals with a fingertip, the shapes sparking memories of Rhaegar's sigil at Harrenhal. A black dragon beneath a trail of falling roses. The seal on the parchment, lily red, echoed Elia Martell's own emblem as Princess of Dorne. A warning, then, not spies alone, but scions of a house bereft and vengeful. Could survivors of the prince's line have slipped through fire and steel? Or was it another claimant to the dragon's now extinguished roar? In the crackling hearthlight, the drawn crown took new shape. 7 points, 7 gods. The faith of the 7, whose high septon still smarted from the Targaryen downfall and the wild rumors of bastardy swirling round the young wolf who now sat the Iron Throne. The realm groaned beneath half-healed wounds, and already new blades were being honed in the shadows. Closing the parchment, Lyanna felt the weight of 2 crowns. One of ice upon her brow, the other of thorns coiling unseen across the realm. To rule the North was trial enough. To keep it free of southern flame would test every sinew of her will. Still, she squared her shoulders. The she-wolf had survived the dragon's den once. She would face these flames again, and she would not burn. Days cascaded like falling leaves. Lyanna trained each dawn in the yard, her blade flashing in arcs that left frost-crusting practice posts. She rode to fallen holdfasts where rebellion's fires had razed barns and cottages, and there she spoke with small folk, listened to grief, pledged timber and coin for rebuilding. At night she walked the ramparts with gray wind at her heels, gazing south where the King's Road vanished into twilight. She wondered what shapes of fate sped along those miles toward her. One dawn broke crimson and gold, a sky aflame. Ravens wheeled, cawing raucously as riders approached across the Bridge of Skulls. Their cloaks bore stag and crown. Their captain, a knight in gilded plate, dismounted and knelt before the open gates. Inside the hall, Lyanna waited in her high seat. Ned stood beside her. Manderley and Umber flanked the dais, flint-eyed and silent. Sir Harlan Grafton bowed low. "Your Grace, I bear greetings from His Majesty Robert of the houses Baratheon and Stark, first of his name. He bids me speak thus, that the friendship of old remains bright as oaths of new-forged steel." Lyanna inclined her head. "Winterfell welcomes friends." Grafton straightened. "His Majesty also proposes a union of strength. He offers his brother, Lord Renly, as suitor, to join your two houses and reconcile fates long sundered." The hall murmured. Ned's jaw tightened. Lyanna felt her pulse steady to a slow, deadly beat. Marriage, chains disguised as garlands. Yet to refuse would risk offense. To accept might bind the North to a crown forever restless. She rose, letting silence pool around her words. "Tell King Robert this, that the North values friendship forged in war, but will not barter sovereignty for silk ribbons. I rule by blood and by the love of my people. A marriage bed is no place to lay a kingdom's shield." Grafton swallowed. "Then may I depart with hope ungiven? With respect conveyed," she answered, soft yet unyielding. When the envoy had gone, Ned exhaled. "You realize what message this sends?"
Ido.
She met his gaze. "That the she-wolf bows to no stag's horn, be it crowned or gilded." Snow fell soon after, thick as goose down, muffling the world in pristine quiet. Winterfell's courtyards became white labyrinths. Children fashioned snow direwolves whose ruby apple eyes glowed in torchlight. Yet beneath the beauty, alarm-s tiered. Rumors of southern nights seen upon the King's Road, villages set aflame near the neck, and soldiers wearing no banner save a pale blue flower pinned to their cloaks. Lyanna called a war council. Around the map table they bent, tracing troop movements with scarred fingers. "Who leads them?" Great John demanded, beard bristling. Maester Luwin tapped a point north of the twins. "Reports name them the Order of the Blue Lily. Their sigil matches the seal you received, Your Grace." Lyanna's eyes narrowed. She turned to Howland Reed's empty chair, feeling its absence like an ache. "We meet them at Moat Cailin," she declared. "If diplomacy fails, the neck shall swallow them whole. The North will not bleed anew."
Ned, Frau Ned.
"Leaving Winterfell unguarded, I will ride." She placed her hand upon Brightfang's hilt. "The North must see its queen lead from the front, not hide behind walls." Great John roared approval, thumping his fist. Manderley muttered caution about harvest stores and frozen rivers. Yet the decision stood. Within 2 days, Lyanna rode out at the head of 500 men, flanked by Karstark outriders and Reed swamp boats sliding through black waters. She slept beneath tattered canvases, the howl of night winds rattling the staves. She dreamt of a tower wreathed in blue winter roses, petals drifting upon snow, of a babe's cry fading into cold stone, of a dragon's skull cracking beneath steel-shod hoofbeats. When dawn bled gray across the neck, scouts returned with grim tidings. The lilies had already reached the causeway, their numbers swelled by Sellswords hungry for plunder. At their head rode a knight in armor chased with silver scales, a cloak of blue silk billowing like storm-tossed sea. His helm bore wings of sapphire-bright steel, and upon his breastplate glittered a sigil. 3 lilies bound about a dragon coiled round 7 stars. Lyanna's breath caught. Dragon's lilies, crown of stars. She signaled the column forward. Swords rasped from scabbards like distant thunder. Beyond the mists the lilies advanced. The battle of the neck would one day be carved upon the weirwoods, but on that morning it began in silence. Fog muffled hoofbeats, and the marsh beneath the causeway swallowed the clank of mail. Lyanna led from horseback, Brightfang held aloft, her banner a simple direwolf snarling against white. Reed's silent spearmen emerged from peat pools, ghost pale, arrows tipped with frog venom. First blood fell to the north. A lily knight toppled into black water, his scream cut short as leeches and mud claimed him. Yet the lilies pressed on, shields locked, pikes bristling. Their silver-scaled commander shouted orders in an accent foreign to Westeros. "Nor Bravosi, nor Lysini, but something older, harsher. Lyanna engaged him mid-causeway, hoof to hoof. Their blades rang. Sparks flew into fog. His strength was iron, hers ice. She parried a downward stroke, wheeled her mare to flank, and felt steel bite through her sleeve just above the elbow. Pain flared hot. She welcomed it, a reminder to live. He laughed, voice echoing inside his helm. She-wolf, the North's crown sits ill upon a stolen bride. Stolen? I went where I chose. She fainted, slipped past his guard, scored a line of Valyrian steel across his pauldron. And I choose now to send you south, lip first in a coffin. Their blades clashed again. Around them, the marsh screamed with men sinking, horses flailing. Crannogman darts zipped from reeds. Umber axes cleaved lily shields. Fog turned pink, then red. Snow began to fall, white upon white, ghosting corpses as they slid into murk. At last Lyanna found an opening. Brightfang's point slipped between the lily commander's gorget and helm, punching through flesh and sinew. Blood fountained scarlet. He sagged, gurgling curses in that ancient tongue. As he slid from his saddle, his helm cracked against planks, and the wings shattered. Lyanna reined in, chest heaving. The lilies faltered. Reed's warhorn blew a mournful note. Like the ebb of a tide, the enemy melted into fog, abandoning wounded and dead. Victory tasted of iron and swamp rot, but it was hers. Back at Winterfell, word spread on raven wings. The queen had bled for her realm. Enemies had drowned in northern mire. Songs sprang up in alehouses. Of the she-wolf's sword flashing like moonlight through lilies, of blue flowers trampled into snow. Small folk pinned chips of painted wood shaped like dire wolves above hearths, praying for her protection. Yet in the quiet hours before dawn, Lyanna sat alone in her solar, arm bandaged, staring at Reed's broken cipher. She now knew the price of kingship. Not crowns or feasts, but days spent hunched over ink-black maps, nights haunted by screams of men she could not save. Winter had only just begun, and with each passing hour, more shadows gathered beyond her firelight. Still, when she rose and parted the shutters, she saw the horizon burn rose gold with sunrise. The north lay draped in snow, untouched, unsullied, vast as any queen's dream. Her home, her burden, her oath. Pulling on a heavy cloak, she descended to the courtyard. There she found Jon, Ned's quiet, gray-eyed ward, swinging a practiced sword at straw targets. 7 years old, lean of limb, fierce of will. He paused when he saw her, cheeks flushed, hair damp with exertion. She approached, crouched to meet his gaze. "You fight well." Jon ducked his head. "Ser Roderick says I'm quick, but my arm's weak." "Speed can fell giants," she said, touching the wooden blade. "Remember that." Their eyes locked, gray meeting gray, and in that breath 1,000 unspoken truths flickered like candle flames. She felt a tug in her chest, tender and raw, as if an invisible thread bound their hearts across chasms of secrecy. "Will you be a knight, Jon Snow?" she asked softly. "If father allows," he murmured. "Train hard, serve with honor, and know that blood is more than birth. The North has need of wolves who guard, as well as those who rule." He nodded, solemn as a young maester, then turned back to his drills. Lyanna watched him a moment longer, then strode toward the hall, cloak billowing behind her like a banner. There was grain to store, wounded to tend, envoys to placate, and spies to unmask. The crown of ice weighed heavy, but she bore it willingly, for herself, for the dead left behind, and for the living yet to stand beneath the howling banners of the North. The she-wolf had survived fire and storm. Now she would rule winter, and winter at last would learn to kneel. Snow hissed against the arrow loops of Winterfell's outer wall as dusk bled slowly into night, burying the world in a hush broken only by distant wolf howls and the muted clatter of the smithy. Lyanna Stark stood upon the battlements alone, fur cloak snapping in the hard north wind, eyes fixed southward where the King's Road vanished beneath steel-gray clouds. Each breath left her lips bright as moon silver before the gale seized it away. In the courtyard below, torches bobbed like fireflies as the watch changed. She marked every motion, the measured tread of Roderick Castle inspecting ranks, the quick step of squires hurrying to douse braziers, the lopsided gait of old Micken returning to his forge. Winterfell lived, and because it lived, she endured. She pressed a palm to the cold stone Merlin. Beneath her glove, rough granite bit into calluses raised by Brightfang's hilt. Only a fortnight had passed since the Battle of the Neck, yet memory of fog-choked screams and lilies sinking beneath black water intruded upon each quiet moment. The marsh had swallowed bodies and secrets alike, but none could say whether the lilies' roots had been torn fully from the realm's soil. Even victory tasted of iron filings and swamp rot. Bootsteps approached. Ned's shadow grew beside her, cloak furred with rime. He carried 2 cups of mulled wine, steam curling through cinnamon dusk. He offered one wordlessly and leaned his elbows on the parapet. Together they watched snowflakes swirl like aimless moths around the torches. "Any word from Reed?" she asked, voice scarcely louder than the wind. "A raven came at sunset. Howland caught 2 lily deserters. One claimed the order was founded by a brother of the Kingsguard who fled Dragonstone after the crown fell, driven by dreams of vengeance. The other spoke of a southern lady with sand in her speech and vengeance in her heart."
Ned paused.
Elias' kin, perhaps. Lyanna's grip tightened on the cup. Heat seeped into restless fingers, yet could not thaw the knot coiled in her chest. "They will not forgive Rhaegar's death, and I—" She stopped herself. Ned's eyes were kind but sharp. She needed no reminder of how her fate tangled with the prince's. He sipped his wine, letting silence carry the unsaid. Below, a direwolf's lonely howl rolled across the yard. Somewhere beyond the godswood, Grey Wind answered, his deeper timbre wrapping the night in a promise of teeth. "Spring feels far off," Ned murmured. "Perhaps spring has no business here," she answered. "The North has always known how to walk with winter. Even wolves tire." His gaze flicked to her bandaged arm. "You haven't let the maester tend that twice-broken slice since we left Moat Cailin." "He can fuss tomorrow," she said, forcing a thin smile. "Tonight I need my wits clear." She drained the cup, savoring cloves and honey. "Tomorrow we sit in council with Bolton and Tallheart. If I show weakness, Roose will scent it like blood on fresh snow." "Bolton is bound by oath," Ned said, though his tone betrayed doubt. "Oaths break easier than ice in thaw." She set the cup aside. "Best remind him a queen's claws are sharper than knives sewn into pink flesh." They lingered until the watch bell tolled in the distant bell tower, 3 slow strokes for the turn of the first guard. As Ned took the emptied cups, he clasped her uninjured arm. "Sleep, sister. Dawn is less forgiving when we barter away our rest." She nodded, yet when his footsteps receded she remained, staring over dark pines toward that invisible line where north met south. Somewhere beyond it Robert Baratheon ruled from a throne of swords, and the game boards of kings landing rattled with fresh pieces. Every raven that flapped against Winterfell's rookery window carried hints of plots hatched beneath painted ceilings. Jon Arryn pressing the crown's debts upon the Lannisters. Lord Tyrell whispering about grain levies and the marriage of young Renly. Lord Hoster Tully fretting over rivermen orphaned by war. But of all tidings, none pricked her skin like news from Dorne, where Prince Doran's couriers spoke of justice still unpaid. Lyanna turned from the battlements, snow melting on lashes, and descended the winding stair. Grey Wind met her at the Godswood Gate, eyes shining pale in torchlight. The great direwolf thrust his muzzle beneath her hand, breathing fog around her wrist. She scratched the thick fur behind his ears, then slipped through the wooden arch into red-leafed silence. The heart tree loomed alabaster white, branches stark against night, its carved face streaked with fresh crimson sap. She knelt where roots nodded like ancient fists. "Old gods," she whispered, "bind these fractured paths. Guide the North's teeth to strike where needed, hold back where mercy might save." A gust rattled leaves overhead. Crimson shadows danced across her cheeks. No answer came but quiet, and yet she felt watched, not by gods alone, but by ghosts trailing behind each footstep since Herenhal. Footfalls disturbed fallen leaves. She rose, hand on Brightfong. From deepest shadow stepped Lady Meege Mormont, hair a tangle of silver threads braided with claws. The Bear Lady inclined her head, broad shoulders filling her bear hide cloak. "Your Grace," Meege rasped, "forgive the hour. I return from Carhold. Ricard Karstark sends 10 wagon loads of cured venison and 200 spears to hold the King's Road. His eldest son Harion rides them south." "And the price?" Lyanna asked. "Marriage." Meege's grin flashed, all broken teeth. "But not to you. To your cousin Barina Stark. Karstarks crave closer blood to Winterfell." Lyanna sighed. "Barina is 14. I and Harion 17. They could wait 2 winters or wed in name only." Seeing Lyanna's scowl, Meege shrugged. "Or you refuse, your grace, but the wagons will turn around." Lyanna brushed snow from a bench of time-smoothed oak. "Come. Sit. Tell me what else you heard." They sat beneath red leaves. Meege shrugged off her cloak, exposing a mail shirt ringed in bear fur. Eastwatch parrots talk of ships under a Kraken banner lingering beyond Skagos. The Ironborn grow restless. She spat. "Let them try our shores and find cold welcome." Lyanna traced a vein in the wood. "The wall's garrison is thin since the rebellion. Stannis holds Storm's End, but no one holds the sea. If Ironborn raid White Harbor while the South demands tribute, wheat will rot before reaching our hungry mouths." Meege grunted. "Then teach the Kraken's fear. My daughters yearn for salt-speared foes." Lyanna smiled despite weariness. "You would chase them into the shivering sea if I let you." "Aye." Meege's grin blossomed savage. Then her tone softened. "You lead well, girl. The North would follow you into night eternal." Lyanna bowed her head, gratitude flickering inside. They spoke until torches guttered low. When Meege departed, Lyanna lingered, listening to the gentle drip of sap from the heart tree, as if it were the beating of a giant heart beneath the snow-blanketed earth. Morning's gray light found the great hall awash with rumor. Lords Bolton and Tallheart arrived before first candle. Roose Bolton wore winter white wool trimmed in ermine, pink cloak clasped by a flayedman brooch whose silver surface caught every torch flame. He bowed with impeccable grace, pale eyes unreadable. "My queen," he murmured, "I lay the Dreadfort's levy at your command. 300 spears, 50 mounted men-at-arms, and 4 maesters skilled in winter maladies." His smile might have graced a corpse. "And I offer the hand of my son, Dom Eric, for any marriage you deem advantageous. He is gentle, schooled by Maester Eamon at the Eyrie, and loves his harp more than his dagger." Behind him, young Dom Eric bent the knee. A boy of 16 summers with a scholar's slouch and earnest gray eyes. Lyanna inclined her head kindly. "Your generosity honors us, Lord Bolton. We shall consider where Demeric's talents might best serve." The flayed man brooch glinted crimson as Roose straightened. "House Bolton's loyalty is unquestioned." "So it must remain," Lyanna replied, her tone edged in frost. "The Dreadfort steel shall defend the King's Road. Spare no quarter for brigands bearing lilies or Kraken sigils. You answer to Winterfell alone." A flicker crossed Roose's expression. Resentment swiftly smothered, but he inclined his head. Helman Tallheart, bearded and bluff, came next, pledging timber from Tallheart forests and ships from White Harbor for coastal defense. He also brought tidings. Manse fires seen along the western shore of Widow's Watch, villages pillaged and fields salted. Lyanna's jaw tightened. Craven Pike's finger bones always reach too far north. Ned proposed dispatching Raven to Lord Wyman for warships. Lyanna countered with a plan to send Meege's daughters, spearwives clad in sealskin, by hidden shore paths to harry raiders before they reached deep water. The council argued until froth cooled in ale horns, but Lyanna's calm voice wound through every objection, weaving strategy with unflinching resolve. When they adjourned at noon, even Bolton's chill gaze hinted at grudging respect. That afternoon, as snow fell in soft veils, Lyanna sought Maester Luwin in the rookery. She found him hunched over a parchment strewn with black wax seals, candlelight silvering his gray fringe. "Messages from Old Town," he said, squinting over spectacles. The Citadel notes unusual entries in the conjunction of spheres. Omen watchers claim a crimson star will grace the sky within the year. They conjecture comets foretell upheaval. Lyanna laughed softly. "Let them see ill fortune in streaks of light. I have enough omens with swords." Still, that night she dreamt of a red comet blazing over Winterfell, painting the snowfields blood scarlet. She woke before dawn, heart hammering like a smith's anvil. Within days, Jon Arryn's second raven arrived, bearing an invitation wrought in purple ink. King Robert summoned Queen Lyanna to King's Landing for a tourney celebrating spring's first sowing. The crown would pay safe passage, furnish quarters in Maegor's Holdfast, and award a purse of gold for justs among northern champions. She read the parchment twice, then passed it to Ned across the table. His mouth set in a grim line. "A gilded cage," he muttered. "Leave Winterfell, and half the realm will woo you with alliances too sweet to trust. Decline, and Robert takes it as insult." Lyanna rose, crossing to the window. Dawn painted drifting clouds in delicate rose. "I will go," she decided. "I will look the lions and roses and stags in the eye and show them the north bends to no leash." "And Jon?" Ned asked softly. "He is but a boy, yet a sharp-eyed court might spy his resemblance to certain memories." "I will leave him here," she said. "Robb and Sansa need his laughter, and Maester Luwin and Old Nan will guard his days." She hesitated. "You must watch him. Should whispers gather like crows, send him to the wall before questions become swords." Ned's face tightened. "He is but 7. The wall does not demand vows at 7. Her voice cracked. "It shelters, and perhaps by the time he comes of age, the world will have forgotten." Ned closed his eyes. If only forgetting were so easy. Preparations consumed a moon turn. Winterfell's smithies rang night and day. Helms hammered, plates riveted, chain shirts mended. Squires polished banners. Washerwomen scrubbed cloaks white as frost. Lyanna selected a retinue of 50. Roderick Castle to command the guard, Domeric Bolton and Harrion Karstark to measure southern boar against northern steel, and a dozen Crannogman archers masked in willow bark to pad silent through Red Keep gardens. Meege Mormont remained to oversee shores. On the morning of departure, the castle drew breath. Snow flurried gentle, each flake glinting in dawn gold. Lyanna, armored in sky-blue cloth of silver beneath a direwolf fur mantle, mounted her gray mare Storm Whisper. Jon appeared on the steps with Robb, both clutching wooden swords. Lyanna leaned down to tousle Jon's dark hair. "Guard your brother," she told him. "I will," Jon said, straight-backed. "And grow quicker." She tapped his wooden blade. "The realm needs swiftness more than strength." He smiled, solemn and fierce. She wheeled her mare, and the column filed from Winterfell's great gate, banners streaming. Torches lined ramparts, flaring bright as northern hearts. Wolves howled farewell. They rode hard for White Harbor, then boarded Wyman Manderley's Grand Carrick River Lion, hull tar-black against churning gray seas. For 7 days they sailed southward. Gulls shrieked overhead. Salt spray crystallized on fur. Lyanna spent hours upon the forecastle, watching whitecaps tumble, listening to the groan of the hull. Night skies flashed with winter lightning, violet veins jagging across black canopy. She felt the sea's raw pulse deep in her bones, untamed as the wolf blood that throbbed behind every heartbeat. On the 8th dawn, Dragonstone's jagged silhouette tore free of mist to port. Spires like broken teeth rose from volcanic rock. Smoke curled from Mount Dragonmont, staining clouds. Lyanna stared, remembering towers of pale blue stone far inland where secrets had lived and died. She exhaled, letting memory drift astern. 2 days later, the River Lion slipped past the Blackwater Rush's beacons and into King's Landing's great harbor. The city unfurled. Crowded piers, squalid shanties, domes of red tile bright as drying blood. Above all loomed the Red Keep, its ancient stones tinted pink by dawn. Hollows in Lyanna's gut stirred. This was the lion's den wrapped in the stag's colors. 12 gold cloaks boarded to escort them ashore. Roderick Castle eyed their dented helms with disdain. One captain met his stare, then abruptly found fascination in his boots. The small folk thronged the streets, jostling for glimpses of the North's wild queen. Cries rose, "She-wolf, come south. Cold lady's claws, mind your purse. Snow witch," but others cheered, tossing winter roses. Pale blossoms grown in Crownland's greenhouses, each petal dusted with frost. They dismounted within the red keep's belly, escorted through vaulted corridors lined with tapestries of slain Valyrian dragons. Servants bowed, eyes scanning furs and scars. At Maegor's holdfast, Robert Baratheon awaited, broad of girth, beard peppered gray, blue eyes rimmed red from too much wine and too little sleep. Yet when Lyanna stepped through the arch, his face lit with boyish joy. "Lyanna!" He swept her into a bear hug, nearly lifting her from the rush-strewn floor. "Gods, it's been an age." She returned the embrace stiffly, mindful of a dozen courtiers observing from behind gilt pillars. Varys in lavender, Littlefinger cloaked in mockingbird green, Grand Maester Pycelle stroking his chain. Cersei Lannister watched from a dais, serpentine smile flickering like candle flame. At her side, her twin Jaime leaned casual against a pillar, green eyes bright with mischief. Robert released Lyanna, stepping back. "You've steel in your gaze, girl. More than when you danced around the Tourney Meadow at Harrenhal. Flowers in your hair. That girl is gone," she said. "Yet the North stands." He guffawed. "The North damn well roars, so they tell me. Come eat, drink. We'll toast old ghosts and new days." But Cersei rose, lips curving thin. "First, your grace. Our guest would wish to wash away winter's dust." The journey was long. Her emerald gaze passed over Lyanna's fur, lingering on the direwolf clasp. Challenge simmered behind the courtesy. "A fair point," Robert admitted, rubbing his beard. "Rooms have been readied in the maiden vault. Take what servants you need." Lyanna inclined her head. "I thank you." As she followed a steward, she felt Lannister eyes prick her back. South or north, foes ever stalked steps where crowns tread. That evening, the welcome feast began in the throne room. Tables groaned beneath spiced boar, honey-glazed quails, river trout stuffed with persimmons. Wine flowed from arbor casks. Musicians played Dornish ballads on high harps. Lyanna took her seat to Robert's left, across from Lord Tywin Lannister, Golden Lion unmoved by revelry. His pale green eyes examined her as a jeweler might a flawed gem. When servants laid a dish of seared hare before her, Tywin spoke. "The North breeds hardy rulers, yet winter taxes supply lines. How fares your grain?" "Better than your river lords after the Mummer's Ford," she answered evenly. Robert choked on laughter. Tywin's mouth narrowed. Conversation turned to the tourney. Renly boasted of tilting against Ser Barristan. Loras Tyrell flashed a smile like polished steel. Jaime Lannister toasted northern courage, golden head tossing. Lyanna drank sparingly, aware that each cup might loose tongues or slip poison. During the third course, a servant presented a gift. A cloak of silver fox trimmed with winter roses. "From the hand," announced Lord Jon Arryn. "So you recall the Vale's regard." She thanked him warmly, but beneath the bloom scent, she sensed political perfume. Arryn aligning with the North to anchor Robert's balance. Later, Varys glided near, robes whispering, "How radiant the North's ice flower blooms beneath southern sun." He cooed, voice soft as velvet yet edged with razors. "One wonders which gardeners might seek to graft such a blossom upon their trellis." She met his painted eyes. "Winter roses root in frozen soil. Transplant them, and they die." Varys smiled, sympathy or mockery. She could not tell. "Some gardens are hotbeds of secrets. I pray yours subtend sturdy thorns." He drifted away, scent of lilac trailing. Near midnight, Lyanna slipped from the hall, weaving past columns toward the godswood courtyard. Moonlight silvered marble. Fountains splashed softly. She found Ned waiting beneath a barren weirwood transplanted centuries before. The tree looked sickly, its red leaves few. Carvings on its trunk lacked magic of northern blood. Yet she pressed her hand to pale bark, seeking whisper. None came. King's Landing is a nest of foxes, Ned muttered. I fear each smiling face hides claws. As do we, she answered. We must pluck truth from pretense. They spoke of rumors. Ser Jorah Mormont in Pento's exile seeking royal pardon. Viserys Targaryen wandering free cities with a silver-haired child called Daenerys. Dornish sand snakes training with poison whips. And always, licking edges of reports, the blue lily sigil, appearing on secret letters convoked through bravos. Each petal a blade aimed northward. Enemies multiply like shadows, Ned said. Then strike at their lanterns, she replied. Before dawn cracked, ravens bore letters bearing her seal to White Harbor, Bear Island, and the Watch. Stand vigilant, trust little, winter wolves sharpen claws. The tourney opened on a crisp morning. Crowds packed the dragon pit's collapsed stands. Banners rippled beneath bright sun. Lyanna sat behind a balustrade beside Robert and Cersei, the Iron Throne's forged monstrosity lurking behind silk curtains. Trumpets blared. Knights thundered into the list. Domeric Bolton tilted first, unhorsing a hedge knight with elegance that drew polite applause. Harrion Karstark charged next, splintering lances with Ser Balon Swan before the younger Swan unseated him in a clash of painted shields. As the day crawled, cheers rose for Loras Tyrell's green and gold blur. Groans followed the mountain's brutal lance blasts, and admiration whispered for Ser Barristan's ageless grace. Yet whisper threaded louder around Lyanna. She rode at Lord Whence Tourney herself once. Will she don armor again? Robert nudged her. Give the realm a show. Tilt once, for old times. Lyanna's gaze drifted across the tilt yard, sawdust strewn, dust motes dancing in slashing sunlight. Memories stirred. Galloping on the spotted gray, petals drifting as Rhaegar crowned her queen of love and beauty. The echo cut as keen as Brightfang. I am not the girl of Harrenhal, she said. Maybe, Robert replied, cheeks flushing with wine. But steel sings sweeter when wielded by legend. He raised a cup to the crowd and bellowed, My northern sister will ride this day. Gasp swept stands. She stood, refusing the flush creeping into cheeks. Very well, she said, voice ringing. Fetch me armor. Below, Roderick's face lit with fierce pride. Within the armory tent, squires buckled her into shining breastplate chased with dire wolves. She pulled on a helm fashioned like a snarling wolf's head, visor shaped as open jaws. Mounting Storm Whisper, she trotted to the lists. The crowd roared. She had not tilted in years, but muscle remembered. The lance felt light as reed. Across the field, her random-drawn opponent waited. Ser Jaime Lannister, Kingslayer, shining in gold plate. He dipped his helm in mocking salute. Trumpets blared. Horses sprang. The sound of thundering hooves drowned everything. The crowd, the city beyond, the throb of her own heart. Sun glinted off Jaime's lance tip. At the last instant, she shifted weight, guiding the lance low. Impact exploded. Wood cracked, banners flapped, pain shot through her shoulder, but she held seat. Jaime spun, armor ringing. His lance splintered against her shield and he reeled, just saved from falling by cat-like balance. Gasps became cheers. Robert whooped. Cersei's smile sharpened. The second pass began. Dust blurred vision. Horse breath steamed. Jaime aimed for her breast. She angled shield, felt jarring blow jerk through ribs, but her own lance struck square at his gorget, denting gold and twisting him half round. He tumbled, crashing into sawdust. The Kingslayer unhorsed. A roar shook the dragon pit. Jaime rose, tore off dented helm, golden hair tousled. He laughed, bowing grandly. Lyanna wheeled Storm Whisper, saluted. She rode past stands, heart-thrumming exhilarated fire. But amid cheers she heard murmurs. Lannister gold tarnished, Stark ice ascendant. Politics sharpened like knives. She withdrew after that single victory, leaving others to flight. Her display served its purpose. The North was not to be dismissed. Still, as dusk settled and revelry began anew, She felt the weight of Lannister eyes. That night, Littlefinger approached during a masked ball in the Maiden Vault. He wore plum brocade and a fantastical mask of a mockingbird. His smile curved sly. "Your grace dances rarely. Shall I risk frostbite coaxing you to the floor?" "I risk thorns and gardens," she replied coolly, refusing his offered hand. "Speak your piece." He gestured for privacy near a window looking over darkened rooftops. "The crown's coffers dwindle," he murmured. "King Robert's generosity bleeds gold. But debts to the Iron Bank cut deeper still. Lannisters loaned much for this tourney. They expect reward, perhaps guardianship over grain flows to the north. A subtle chain, but chain nonetheless. And you?" she asked. "What price your information?" "Only friendship." His eyes glittered above the mask. "And maybe a favor when winter snarls. Gold flows where warmth resides." She met his gaze, unblinking. "Northern wolves do not beg warmth. We hunt it." He chuckled, spoken like queen and ice together. With a flourish, he vanished into swirling dancers. Lyanna exhaled, turning to find Varys close as a phantom. He bowed. "Mockingbirds sing prettily, yet their notes conceal hawks' talons." "I have a long memory," she said. "Long memory can be heavy." He paused. "Beware the shadows cast by lilies drowned. Roots may yet entangle your hearth. You speak riddles. A spider hears many footsteps." He melted away. Lyanna strode from the hall, hunger for clean snow aching in her throat. She longed for wolf song, not lute string trickery. In her chamber she found a sealed letter on the pillow. Blue wax lily merged with dragon. Breaking seal, she unfolded a square of silk, inked with 2 words, "Still alive." Her blood chilled. Could Rhaegar's infant Aegon truly have survived the sack? Or did some pretender seek leverage? Flames of old love flickered with dread. If a dragon heir yet breathed, all south would burn to forge his crown, and the north would char as kindling. She tossed the silk onto the hearth. Fire licked blue, devouring lilies. Days passed in courts, hunts, and subtle war. Cersei invited her to the Queen's Solar, offered arbor gold and friendship entwined in golden chains. Tywin proposed a trade pact guaranteeing Lannister coin to fund northern roads, binding Winterfell to the Westerland's gold. Renly flattered with bouquets of ruby-red roses and sly smiles. Through each meeting Lyanna moved as if across thin ice, listening for cracks. One dawn, Domeric Bolton rushed into her chambers, breath white. "Your Grace, news from the King's Road." Blue lily riders cross Tumbleton, heading south to Dorne. A Dornish sand snake rides with them. Lyanna cursed softly. If lilies sought Dorne's alliance, fire might pair with venom. She dispatched ravens to Meege and Howland, intercept riders upon return, capture alive. That night she met Jon Arryn in the Godswood Grove. Fireflies glimmered amongst marble pools. The old hand leaned on his cane, pale from cough. "Robert wants alliance," Arryn said. "He will press you to betroth yourself or young Robb to South's houses. I will refuse." "Refusal has cost," Arryn warned, "but perhaps price can be borne." He sighed. "I fear storms ahead, Lyanna. Robert's temper grows, Lannister pride sweeps high, and the realm's scars bleed beneath bandages of wine." Lyanna glanced at frail weirwood leaves. "Once I fled south chasing love and nearly broke kingdoms. Now the south chases me. But I have learned, wolves do not chase their tails." Arryn managed a wan smile. "Keep your strength, and watch the lioness. Her claws are sharper than her brother's sword." 3 days before tourney's final, Robert summoned a private council. Lyanna, Ned, Arryn, Pycelle, Tywin, and Cersei. Wine and tension scented the chamber. Robert, flushed, declared debt relief for the North in exchange for Lyanna naming Ned Warden of the North and herself Lady Protector only under the crown. Lyanna stiffened. "Winterfell's crown bows to no overlord." Tywin interjected. "The title is honor, not leash." "Then keep your honors," Lyanna said, voice cold edge. "The North's life is hard enough without gilded chains." Robert's temper flared. Gods, woman, must you fight every offer? She rose. I fight to keep what's mine. Friendship is not submission. She turned to Ned. Prepare our departure while wind favors. Cersei's smile glittered. Aaron coughed blood-tinged flecks into a kerchief. Majesty, think. But Lyanna walked out, head high. That night, lanterns flickered frantic along palace walls. A servant burst into her chamber. Domeric Bolton stabbed in an alley, Lily's sigil carved into his breast. He lived, but barely. Rage surged within her like wildfire. She strode to Robert Solar, stormed past guards. Inside, Robert sprawled drunk. She flung Domeric's blood-soaked tunic at his feet. This is your southern hospitality. Robert blinked watery eyes. What? Lily assassins roam your streets while you drown in wine. Control your realm or the North will guard itself. Turning, she marched away, leaving silence louder than any roar. Before dawn, she convened her retinue. Roderick prepared horses. Harry and Karstark escorted Domeric on a stretcher bound for a healer in Maidenpool, safer than King's Landing. Ned confronted her in the stables. Leaving now forfeits the goodwill we fought to shape. Goodwill is ash, she said, cinching a saddle. And ash cannot warm winter nights. Hoofbeats echoed early light as they rode from the Red Keep. City gates gaped like dragon jaws, closing behind them with a crash. Along the King's Road, travelers whispered, Queen of Winter fleeing Lion's Den. Yet Lyanna felt no shame, only chilled clarity. Near dusk they camped beneath storm-bent firs by the Mander. While Castle's men set guard, Lyanna paced riverbank. Snowmelt rushed icy around her boots. Suddenly a figure stumbled from brush. Ragged cloak, hair silver gold glinting. A boy of 3 and 10, eyes purple as twilight. Behind him limped an older woman, face veiled, carrying a small satchel. Lyanna drew Brightfang. The boy raised empty hands. Please, he rasped, accent lilting free cities. We seek the she-wolf. She stared, dragon's violet eyes. Who are you? I am Aegon of House Targaryen. Some call me Young Dragon. But I have no throne, only fear. He trembled. The lilies protected us, yet they turned. Their leader died and others seek to sell us to the Queen of Thorns or the Lion's wife. We ran. Lyanna's heart hammered. Viserys' lost nephew. If true, a spark to relight dragonfire, or a trap cunningly laid. The veiled woman spoke, voice tempered steel. My prince tells truth. I am Jonquil Dark, sworn sword to House Targaryen. I beg sanctuary. Lyanna sheathed her sword, conflicting tides crashing. If she sheltered the boy, Robert would rage, Lannisters scream treason, realm ignite. Yet could she doom a child for crown politics? She had once lain in a tower birthing a child she could not keep. Memory sliced. Come, she said softly. The North does not slay children in cold or fear. Hells ruptured the instant choice breathed. Wolves shielding dragons hatchling. Under pitch-black stars, Lyanna confided in Ned. By firelight, his face looked carved from ice. This boy is a spark in dry pine, he warned, or a chance to heal old fires, she answered. Aegon never harmed us. Lannisters will claim you Hyde Pretender. Robert will hunt you. Let him. Her voice trembled firm. Winter wolves don't flee stags forever. Ned closed eyes. Very well. We ride hard. But once at Winterfell, secrecy is life. He bent to stir coals. Sparks sprang skyward. Tiny comets burning then dying in vast dark. Lyanna watched them fade, thoughts scattering. She had chosen. Now storm winds howled. 10 days later, Winterfell's gates opened to welcome weary riders. Snow fell heavier, sky bruised purple. Lyanna dismounted, boots crunching ice. Jon ran to greet her. She knelt, hugging him tight. Over his shoulder she saw young Aegon staring wide-eyed at towers. She whispered to Jon, "Friend from far away. Treat him as brother." Jon nodded solemnly, taking the prince's hand. That night, candlelight flickered across maps while Lyanna, Ned, and Maester Luwin plotted how to hide a dragon in a den of wolves. Aegon would be Jon Snow's new page, name changed to Egan Rivers, a bastard of a fallen bannerman. His violet eyes must be hidden. Luwin brewed dye to mud their hue. Outside, winds howled. Ravens beat at the shutters. Somewhere beyond the wall, storms brewed. South, lions and stags sharpened blades. In Dorne, serpents coiled. Across the narrow sea, dragons stirred, and lilies whispered revenge. Lyanna stood at her window, watching snow spiral in torchlight, and felt fate tighten like a drawn bowstring. She had taken a child beneath her wing and set torch to tinder stacked across kingdoms. But in her heart, a wolf's growl rose, promising teeth for any who threatened her den. Winter's queen had come home, bearing fire's orphan, and winter itself would burn before she surrendered him. Snow muffled Winterfell in deepening silence as the year's darkest moons wheeled across the frozen sky, their pale glow tracing hoarfrost feathers across each stone. By day the courtyard rang with steel again, but not the jubilant drills of squires. Rather the purposeful clangor of watchmen reforging axes and mauls, old weapons pulled down from high hooks, oil wiped from stamped wolf heads. The castle hummed with tension felt in every gust of icy wind that rattled shutters. A southerly storm brewed beyond the neck, its first whispers born in a red keep council chamber where Lyanna Stark had stood unbowed. Inside the great library tower, the queen of winter's hearth crackled. Yet even the crackle seemed subdued, like words smothered by unspoken dread. Lyanna sat at an oak table littered with open scrolls. Read written reports from Howland about lily riders trapped in bogs. Meage's tally of ironborn longships skulking off White Harbor. Wyman Manderly's pleas for coin to rebuild piers burned in a midnight raid. And Luwin's neat ledger showing a dwindling grain reserve. Across the table Ned paced, boots whispering upon rushes. "They circle us like wolves," he said, though it was she who bore that sigil. Lions from the south, krakens from the west, lilies and vipers tangled in roots. One spark and every border burns. "We stand on a cliff," she replied, fingers drumming parchment. "If we retreat, we tumble into southern claws. Aye, if we charge fed by fear, we lose our footing and tumble all the same. We must anchor ourselves and choose where to strike first." A soft knock. Maester Luwin entered, his breath pluming. "Your Grace, word from Lord Commander Corgyle at the wall." A ranging party glimpsed fires atop the fist of the first men. Burned icons found in the snow. No sigils, but ash smelled of lilies.
Ned halted.
Blue lilies north of the wall? Perhaps only raiders copying the mark, Luwin said, though his eyes held worry. Still, the watch begs horseflesh and barley, their stores thin. Lyanna pressed fingertips to temples. "Send grain by whaling skiffs upriver to Eastwatch. Quietly, if those fires herald more, we'll need the wall strong." "Quietly,"
Ned echoed.
"Let no raven fly south trumpeting our weakness." She looked to Luwin. "Add double the oats. Men march harder on full bellies." When Luwin bowed out, Ned resumed pacing. "We bleed coin for every shipment, between grain and new spearheads. We bleed less than if the wall falls and wildlings flood," she said. Or worse. She remembered tales whispered by old Nan. White shadows with eyes like moon-blue ice. Lyanna had once laughed at childhood ghost stories. Now she felt their chill lingering in every draft. A copper pot whistled on the brazier. She poured him mulled cider, forced a reassuring smile. "The North has endured winters long as dynasties. We endure this." But even as she spoke, her senses kept drifting to the nursery chamber one floor above where two boys, John and newly named Egan Rivers, studied letters by lamplight under Septa Curran's guidance. Each dusk she visited them. John proud over steady pen strokes, Egan shy beneath dyed eyes now dull hazel. She offered praise but wondered how long dye might hide Valyrian purple if tears washed it clean. A fortnight later, a lone horn blast echoed through morning's hush. Guards on the battlements straightened. Dogs bayed. From the southern road approached a small column, 6 riders under pale blue banners trimmed silver. At their fore rode a tall woman wrapped in dove-gray wool, helm crowned by antlers carved from weirwood, Lady Barbary Dustin, widow of the Spears of the Tower and once scorned daughter to House Riswell. Behind her cantered men wearing sigils of Stout, Serwyn, and Lightfoot, as if a patchwork of lesser houses stitched itself to her cause. In the great hall she dismounted unannounced, cloak swirling, eyes sparking amber in torchlight. "Lyanna Stark," she declared, voice cold. "The North fractures. Lord Roose whispers you gamble our sons for a dragon's whelp. He says winter wolves nurse a viper." Murmurs rippled among gathered stewards and guards. Ned's face darkened. Lyanna rose from the high seat, bright fong at her hip. "Roose Bolton's tongue drips poison, Lady Dustin. Your house has known his treachery. Why carry his rumors here?" Barbary's jaw worked. "Because some rumors grow true when left untended. Show us the child. Prove no dragon blood hides beneath wolf fur." Gasps rustled. Lyanna stepped down the dais. "You demand a queen parade every child before you? Would you have me bleed my arm to prove ice flows in my veins?" Barbary's hand hovered near dagger. "If it secures northern lives, yes." Lyanna's eyes burned iron. "I will bear no innocent to your spite. But hear this, the crown hunts northern independence. Bolton feeds fear so you'll trade freedom for his flayed mercy. The only viper suckled today is he." Silence fell. Then Greatjon's booming laughter broke tension. He stepped forward, blocking Barbary's view. "If the Dreadfort barks, the pack howls louder." He thrust ale-slopped beard toward Lady Dustin. "Run back to the bastard of Bolton and tell him his lies freeze in Winterfell's hearth." Barbary's gaze slid to Ned. "You stand with her?" Ned answered, "I stand with the North, until Lyanna proves false. And she has not. You brand yourself traitor by repeating Bolton's whispers." She swallowed, anger quivering yet tempered by reason. At last she inclined her head. "Then give me leave to question such rumors myself. Allow me guest right for 3 days to see Winterfell's truth. If I find no dragon, my spearkin will silence Bolton's gossip." She lifted right hand. "Swear it." Lyanna studied her. Suspicion, but also a glint of shared hatred toward Bolton, who years earlier had refused Dustin aid at her husband's death. Decision weighed heartbeats. Finally she nodded. "Guest right is yours. No harm shall reach you beneath my roof. But you will not roam where children sleep." Barbary's chin lifted. "I seek only light in dark corners." She turned, boots crunching rushes, following a steward to chambers. After she left, Lyanna exhaled. Ned murmured, "She hunts proof. She will find none." Lyanna replied, but her heart raced. They must shield Egan doubly. Night spread thick. In the nursery, flickering lamplight spilled over letters. John recited a passage from the Tenets of the First Men, voice soft but determined. "Strength without honor is ice without weight. It breaks upon stone." Egan copied the lines slowly, brows furrowed. Lyanna watched unseen in the doorway, feeling a swell of fierce love. Footsteps approached. Septa Corinne curtsied. "They study well, your grace." Lyanna entered, placing a gentle hand on each boy's shoulder. "Enough candles for one night." She blew the flame. Smoke curled. "Dream of warm halls and bright mornings." John asked, "Will you tell us the tale of the ice dragon again?" "Tomorrow." She brushed his dark curls. To Egan she whispered, "Rest easy, little snow wolf." He smiled, relieved. As she left, she passed Lady Barbary lingering near an adjoining corridor, shadowed by torch. Their gazes crossed. Barbary offered a curt nod, then retreated down spiral stairs. Lyanna's pulse hammered. She hurried to Ned's solar where maps lay beneath wax. "Bolton moves," she said. "Send ravens to Deepwood Motte and Last Hearth. Muster spears but stay hidden. If Bolton marches, we answer." Ned unsheathed an old dagged knife, pointing to the Dreadfort on parchment. "If he crosses the Weeping Water, we'll know. I placed watchers at the Skyfall Ford, but I fear more subtle blades." Daggers slipped into corridors. "Then double the guard inside the castle," she said. and keep Egan under constant eye. 2 days of tense hospitality followed. Barbary wandered the great hall, questioned grooms about strange boys, pressed kitchen scullions about visitors from the south. She examined garret classrooms, training yards, even the rookery tower. Yet each time she came near the nursery, Ned or Lyanna diverted her path with polite conversations that bled into strategy lectures or supper debates. On the third dawn, she broke her fast alone, then approached the queen at the battlements. "Rumors misled me," Barbary conceded, though grudgingly. "Your castle hides no dragon, only wolves sharpening against winter. I ride to Ruskfield to rally House Riswell and House Riddiger. We'll meet Bolton's malice with iron." Lyanna placed a hand on Barbary's forearm. "Ride swift, and remember, we are sisters in snow before daughters of differing houses." She pressed a silver wolf brooch into Barbary's hand. "For truth kept." Barbary's fierce eyes softened. "For truth." She turned and descended, cloak lifting in winter wind. Watching her vanish, Lyanna whispered, "One spear turned," yet she felt no triumph, only apprehension at battles ahead. On the first clear night of the new moon, horns wailed along Winterfell's walls. Iron-borne longships, driven by cruel easterlies, had swept inland along the White Knife, torching fisher hamlets. Smoke plumes drifted across starlit sky. Meage Mormont burst into the hall in salt-spattered leathers. Krakens strike at dawn. 30 ships near Widow's Watch. I gathered every spear I could but need heavier steel. Lyanna's eyes blazed. "Summon our fleet from White Harbor. Wyman's river galleys block the knife. Meage, take your daughters and the garrison's best archers. I ride with you." Ned grabbed her arm. "You spoke of anchoring, not charging." "Our people burn," she said. "If Krakens taste victory, Bolton's men will move. The North must see its queen among the sparks." At dawn, Lyanna, Ned, Meage, and 200 riders thundered along frost-glazed trails to the eastern shore. Smoke smudged the horizon. Villagers fled along coastal tracks, clutching children. They cheered when they saw direwolf banners. On a cliff overlooking the bay, Lyanna surveyed the carnage through a bronze far eye. Longships beached, oars bristling. Raiders dragging livestock toward hulls, one holdfast ablaze. White-capped breakers crashed, drowning screams. She turned to Meage. "Split north and south. Cut off their retreat to ships." She hefted Brightfong, sunlight flashing along rippling steel. "I'll take center, draw their line." Meage grinned. The Krakens meet the she-wolf. Horns sounded. Riders charged down the slope, hooves tearing sandy turf. Arrows whickered overhead, black fletching streaks. Lyanna's mare leapt a dune. She raised Brightfong high. Raiders wheeled, shields of boiled leather clashing. She struck first, blade shearing through a reaver's left pauldron, spraying crimson. Her spear line crashed behind, axes chopping through salt-rusted mail. Meage's daughters burst from wave spray, screeching battle cries. The Krakens faltered. Back at their starboard flanks, Ned's reserve of archers loosed arrows into panicked clusters. Ironborn captains blew their war horns, rallying. One monstrous raider wearing octopus ink tattoos charged Lyanna with a greatsword. She ducked his swing, slashed his thigh, pivoted, hamstrung him. He collapsed, croaking curses swallowed by sand. A battered longship's captain, Carl the Kraken, famed for reaving Gulltown, recognized the direwolf crest and bellowed a challenge. He waded through surf with twin axes. Lyanna spurred forward. They met at the tide line. Woodships spilled foam around boots. Carl's first axe slammed her shield, nearly numbing her arm. His second came high, but Brightfong parried, sparks flying. She lunged, slicing his cheek, drawn line like fishhook. He roared, kicked her knee. Pain shot up thigh. She staggered but fainted low, stabbing beneath his armpit. Steel plunged into heart. He died gurgling salt. Seeing their chief fall, raiders broke. Some fled for ships. Others surrendered to Meage's netted spears. Fires sputtered beneath thrown snow. White harbor galleys appeared beyond the headland. Sails bloated. Whistles signaled victory. Lyanna waded to the shallows, water swirling red around boots. Exhaustion burned, but pride matched. She raised her sword to the gray sky, letting the North Sea crimson washed clean by freezing waves. By twilight, the Kraken banners were nailed inverted to the Widow's Watch gatehouse. Villagers returned to salvage charred planks. Lyanna convened her captains in the ruined hall of a stone keep still smoldering. There she learned a darker note. Captured reavers spoke of coin paid by men wearing lily brooches, promising Ironborn all loot south of the Neck if they harried northern shores for 2 moons. The Krakens accepted gladly. Ned's jaw clenched. Lily gold buys salt. Meej spat into the hearth, flames hissing. Flay them and feed their tongues to crows. Lyanna touched Meej's shoulder. We hang them at dawn. Let ravens carry witness to Pike that the North does not forgive hired blades. Then to Ned, send word to Reed. The lilies grow bold again. He must uproot them. Returning to Winterfell after a week of rebuilding coasts, Lyanna found the castle buzzing with yet more news. A raven from King's Landing. Lord John Arryn, Hand of the King, lay fevered unto death. Some scribes whispered poison. Robert demanded Lyanna send Ned south to serve as acting hand until Arryn recovered. In brotherly trust, the letter ended with Robert's plea. Come, little sister, help me steer this storm. Ned read it twice, eyes dark. He uses brotherly love to draw hostages, Lyanna said. With me in his court, he tames the North. Bolton may even sit quiet. But if we refuse, he labels us rebels, Ned murmured. And Southron houses hunger for such pretexts. That evening they walked the godswood paths lit by moon-off snow. Gray wind padded behind. Lyanna paced slow. I will go, she said at last, but not unguarded. You remain here, rule as my hand. Jon and Egan need your watch. I'll take Manderly's guards and Meej. Ned's breath frosted. The path is perilous. So is standing still. She gazed upward at bare branches rattling. Winter wolves hunt best when they choose their ground. She paused. If I do not return by the next spring thaw, you must crown Robb. Speak no such doom. Forethought is not doom, it is armor. She reached for his hand. Promise me. He swallowed. I promise only that I'll fight fate if it dares take you. Preparations began anew. Luwin mixed ink for secret correspondence. Reed's crannogmen wedged messages into toad skins bound for every holdfast in the Neck. Meej drilled her spearwives. Barbary Dustin returned, bearing news. Roose Bolton marshaled 2,000 men near the Weeping Water, claiming to defend against further Ironborn. She smiled grimly. My spears ride behind him, but not beside. On the eve before departure, Lyanna knelt before the heart tree with Jon and Egan. Snow drifted upon their cloaks. She placed a carved stone direwolf in each boy's hand. Keep him near. When you feel alone, press his teeth and remember I guard you even far away. Jon nodded solemnly. Egan whispered, I will grow brave like you. The dye in his eyes seemed darker tonight, hiding fear. She hugged them both, inhaling their scent of parchment and pine. Standing, she faced Ned, handed him a sealed letter. Open only if the crown declares war upon Winterfell. He slipped it inside jerkin. I pray never to read it. Lyanna's party rode out beneath pale dawn. Villagers lined the road, doffing caps, waving pine torch staves. She gazed back once. Winterfell's towers wreathed in white breath, banners crackling, Jon and Egan high upon the battlements flanked by Archmaester Quill and Grey Wind. Their figures shrank as horizons swallowed them. The King's Road stretched south, each league stitched with risk. At Mole's Town they learned a Lily Rider killed 3 Night's Watch brothers. At Queen's Crown they outran an ambush of Sellswords wearing half-Kraken sigils. Near the inn at the crossroads a toll post manned by Frymen demanded guest tribute. Lyanna's eyes hardened. Roderick Castle disarmed them. Meej's axe removed ears. They passed unmolested thereafter. Past the Trident, early spring thaw softened rutted tracks. Fields signaled promise of green yet lay dormant under frost. Villagers spoke of unrest in the capital. Robert's fury at Arryn's illness, Lannisters strengthening city guard, Queen Cersei visiting alchemists in the Guildhall, whispers seeped of sparrows flocking to the September of Baelor, preaching against the abomination of a she-wolf queen who shuns the gods. The last leg to King's Landing wound through darkling pines. On the third dusk, scouts returned with alarming tidings. The royal host had ridden out to greet them. At first light, they saw dust clouds rising. Robert himself led 500 knights, Renly at his flank, banners streaming crowned stag over Baratheon gold. Meej muttered, "He seeks to cage you in friendship." Lyanna smiled thin. "Let us greet him with tooth and courtesy." They met on a meadow flecked with early crocus buds. Robert, mail clinking, dismounted, arms open. "Little sister," he boomed, "I feared you'd turn northward again before I laid eyes on you." She slid from her horse, cloaked in silver fox. "I would not break your summons." He grasped her forearm, eyes bright, yet she saw wine's flush even at dawn. "Ride with me," he urged, guiding her toward a copse away from ears. Once secluded, he grew somber. Aaron's death bell rings near. Pycelle suspects rot lung, but others whisper poison. Cersei hovers night and day, feeding him sweet milk to ease coughing. "When he dies, I must name a new hand." He squeezed her arm. "Help me. I will guide your realm," she said, "but I will not be your counsel without voice. The North's needs stand equal." He nodded vigorously. "Equal, and more, I need you safe in the keep. Rumors chase you. Dragons, witches, stillborn heirs. Your presence ends whispers." She met his gaze level. "Rumors spring from seeds you sowed when you crowned me at Harrenhal. But I come. Yet first you must prove your court safe. Send away Lannister guards from my chambers, dismiss spies in tapestry shadows." Robert scowled. "Spies everywhere." Then he softened. "I'll see to it. Come, we ride." They cantered toward the city together, banners intermingling. But behind them Meej's watchful eyes catalogued each lion crest among the escort. King's Landing reeked of spring filth, fish rot, tanner's lie, privy runoff. Crowds cheered the she-wolf and king. In the Red Keep's throne room, Cersei greeted them with a smile carved thin as parchment. Jaime stood behind in white cloak, expression unreadable. That evening, Lyanna was escorted to chambers in the Maiden Vault. Not Maegor's dark holdfast, but still heavily guarded. Her door closed with a metal scrape. Meej stationed spearwives outside, refusing royal guard presence. Inside, a sealed envelope lay upon her writing desk, blue wax lily, yet stamped with a Valyrian glyph she recognized from Rhaegar's old books. "Truth burns." She slid it. A single slip of parchment bearing coordinates, numbers referencing the vast catacombs beneath the city where dragon skulls once slept, and 3 words in Valyrian: "He waits here." A chill crawled her spine. If trap, it was cunning. If truth, impossible. She pocketed the note, mind whirring. Midnight bells tolled. She donned dark leathers and a hooded cloak, left her chambers through servants' stairs with only Meej accompanying. They slipped through corridors where torchlight pooled, down spiral stairs into gloom thick with dust. They passed sleeping rats and crumbling gargoyles until stone gave way to colossal vaults where shadows cast titan skulls upon walls. The last dragon skull loomed ahead, jaws agape. Within its maw crouched a figure cloaked in charcoal, lamp shielding face. Lyanna drew bright fong. Meej hefted axe. The stranger rose slowly, lifting hood. A boy of 17 with silver gold hair, taller than Egan, violet eyes uncovered. "Aunt," he said softly. She froze. Only one person could call her that. If Rhaegar's sister's line, but no, Rhaegar had but 2 siblings, Viserys and infant Daenerys. He bowed. "I am Viserys Targaryen himself." No, Viserys would be older. She narrowed eyes. "I see confusion," he said. "I was named Viserys after the prince, but I am son to Ser Arthur Dayne's sister and," he sighed, "bloodlines tangle. What matters is this. The lilies hunt my cousin Aegon. I followed them across narrow sea. I know the boy lives in Winterfell. I come not for claim but to warn."
Dana edges nirava.
Prince Oberyn leads spears north under lily banners. Lyanna's breath caught. Why help? Because my mother died at Tower of Joy protecting you. Because honor binds Dane's swords to justice. He knelt. I swear, I serve no master but a dream of realm unburnt. Meej watched warily. Lyanna lowered sword. Rise, your tidings matter, but you will prove words. She handed him a wolf brooch. Wear this. My spies will weigh your truth. He clasped it. I will. He hesitated. The lilies call themselves Order of the Bleeding S.
Tar.
Their leader is Ser Gerald Hightower's illegitimate son, Ser Osric Flowers. He seeks to place Aegon on the throne, then rule through him. Flowers claims the White Bull's mantle, she murmured. So they chase dragon heirs as prisoners, not kings. Viserys nodded. They mean to unveil him at Old Town's Starfall crypt and crown him with Sword Dawn. Lyanna sheathed Brightfang. Then we steal their sword and their claim. By dawn she sat with Robert in Solar overlooking Blackwater Bay, sunrise smearing gold across sea. He sipped wine, beard unkempt. She told him of lilies and Ironborn, of Bolton's games, of Oberyn's march. Robert listened, cheeks reddening. Oberyn's spears north of the neck? I'll smash him. Smashed bones inspire vengeance, she said. Better break his purpose. Grant Dorne concessions, justice for Elia, seats on small council. In exchange for loyalty. Robert slammed cup. Why should I appease vipers? Because lily vipers coil around your realm's throat. Dorne's fury fuels them. Quench fire at its source. She leaned forward. And because war drains coffers already bled. He quieted, heavy-lidded. You speak sense. Very well. But only if you stand as my hand should Aaron die. I trust no other. She froze. Hand of the king? She had come to shield the north, not guide southern snakes. Yet to refuse might thrust Lannisters into the seat. She swallowed. Temporarily, until realm steadies. Robert clasped her forearm. Done. Outside, bells tolled. Word spread. Lord John Arryn, Hand of the King, dead at dawn. Within an hour, red-coated heralds announced, Lyanna Stark, Queen of Winter, named Lady Hand until further decree. Gasps echoed. Cersei's face hardened like ice. Jaime's eyes glittered interest. Varys bowed low. Littlefinger's grin spread. Lyanna stood upon marble steps, felt realm's gaze burn. In that moment she realized the blade edge beneath this honor. If she faltered, Winterfell would stand alone. If she succeeded, she might yet forge peace. That night she penned letters to Ned instructing him to hold the North against Bolton, to Wyman ordering sale of half the season's whale oil for silver, to Reed detailing plots, to Meej tasks, to Jon and Egan words of love. Before sealing Egan's, she paused. On fresh parchment she wrote, Be brave, my little dragon wolf. Guard the North in your heart and hide your fire till frost needs flame. She signed your snow mother. Sealing wax dripped blood red. She prayed the message reached before storms swallowed roads. Days blurred into councils. She replaced half the gold cloaks with knights loyal to houses sworn to the Northwest Alliance. She ordered the treasury audited, found Lannister ledgers falsified. She signed grants for repairs to Storm's End, withheld roses from Highgarden until they sent grain to the north, appointed Ser Davos Seaworth Master of Ships to curtail smuggling rings funding lilies. Each decree stirred hornet nests but built alliances among common folk. Cersei maneuvered, hosting feasts that excluded northern diplomats. Jaime visited Training Yard, sparring with Brienne of Tarth before crowds' cheers, his gold armor winking challenge. Tywin remained at Casterly Rock, yet letters arrived daily pressing for debts repaid. Lyanna answered with promises of timber and iron to be shipped when roads thaw, an indefinite postponement. Meanwhile, Viserys Dane, using alias Ser Linsand, roamed the city, feeding her tidings. Osric Flowers met with Qyburn, Bandmaester rumored to experiment with poisons. Lilies bribed Bravosicel to hide Blade of Wildfire beneath September of Baelor. Lyanna dispatched her Crannogmen to sabotage meeting. Captured records revealed plan to ignite Sept during her first audience with High Septon. She foiled it by arriving armored, lacing the altar with fire-quench powder. The High Septon blessed her crown. Conspirators were hanged. Rumors of divine favor for the she-wolf spread among small folk, sparrows kneeling as she passed. Yet each victory provoked new threats. One Twilight Viserys arrived bleeding from shoulder. Lily assassins in alley. He handed her a torn scrap stained red. Bolton marches with Fry and Ryswell under Lily banner. 5,000 spears. Heart hammering, she summoned small council. The North holds, she declared. But for how long? We must send force to aid Ned. Renly scoffed. Send knights? We barely keep peace on the King's Road. She turned icy eyes. Then I go. Cersei clapped hands theatrically. Hand of the king cannot abandon her post at crisis.
Qui menace Bineat. Lyanna met Robert's case.
Wine blurred his eyes, yet something within still respected old vows. Let me ride, she pleaded. Your strength of throne is mine. If North falls, so falls loyalty. Robert stared into Goblet. If you ride, Realm thinks king weak, queen strong. Then ride with me, she challenged. Show Realm king and queen of war stand united. Room hushed. Cersei's nails bit table. Renly's brows rose. Varys's smile glimmered. Robert slammed fist. By gods, yes, I've grown fat. Time to swing hammer again. We ride north and smash traitors together. He laughed thunderous. Cersei seethed. Your Grace, the prince's betrothal ceremony. Postpone. Robert roared. War calls. Lyanna's stomach twisted. Bolton's cunning might lure King into trap, but with Robert's army, they could overwhelm. Yet leaving King's Landing to Lannister's risked coup. She compromised. You assemble host at Harrenhal. I ride ahead with 100 to relieve Winterfell, then meet you south of Moat Cailin. Robert agreed, hammered Goblet. Plans formed. In her solar that night, candlelight flickered on map. Meege stood ready. Viserys Dane offered to guide secret routes. Roderick packed. Lyanna wrote final letter to Ned. Bolton rises. Hold the gates. I ride north with storms at my heels. When the sky roars, know it is my heart beating for our home. She sealed with gray wax. As dawn gilt towers, she donned armor. Sky blue breastplate etched with direwolf, for mantle sweeping. Horses stamped in courtyard. Robert, hungover, emerged in mail shirt, hefting warhammer. He grinned. To the north, trumpets blared. South's walls echoed. From a window above, Cersei watched, green eyes boiling. Lyanna mounted Storm Whisper, feeling destiny tighten threads around each breath. She thought of Jon and Egan waiting among snow-clad pines, of Ned holding Winterfell's heart. She thought of Lily's bleeding blue upon white fields, of Bolton's pink banners dripping lies. She spurred forward, company wheeling around her, banners unfurling. Direwolf gray, stag gold, bear brown. The King's Road opened like a frozen river ahead. Hoofbeats thundered. The she-wolf of the north hurtled toward Storm, bright blade ready to carve fate anew, winter wind howling her name across every mile of snowbound realm.